What makes me feel empowered is when I feel like I'm competing on an equal playing field with other people. And to give a good example of that, when I'm not here at Champlain, right now I'm doing property management, and I actually have a verb for something that happens to me, which is getting little blonde chickied, which means that contractors come in and assume, because I'm 5'1" and I'm blonde, that I don't know anything about what they're doing. And so what makes me feel empowered is when I can go in and actually sort of critique them and evaluate their work in a knowledgeable way. Like, for example, I once had a roofer who went up on a roof and nailed down tarps and painted them the same color as the roof, assuming that I wouldn't climb up the 50-foot ladder to look, and I did, and he was really embarrassed. And so it made me feel empowered that I had the ability and the knowledge to go and sort of tell people straight how it really is, and not to be fooled, not to be taken advantage of. What makes me feel supported is when there are institutional structures in place to make sure that I'm competing on an equal playing field. And a story that sort of relates to that is that at one point a couple of years ago, I received a paper from a student in my Concepts of Community class that argued that women are too stupid to vote. And I think he meant to wind me up. I think he meant to sort of be provocative. But the point is that I really had no place to take that. Right? I brought it up to my dean, and she agreed that it was horrible, but there was really no institutional structure that helped deal with that. I think if that had happened and he'd made a similar argument about students of color, we could have taken it to Ame, and she could have sort of followed it up the food chain, but there was no comparable structure in place for a paper that was denigrating women. But what made me feel supported in that instance was that my cohort partner was absolutely wonderful. And he had the student read it out loud in his class, and then he just let the young women in the class have at it. And that was really great. Like, I really felt like my cohort partner had my back. And so I felt really supported there. But institutionally, to sort of move on to the third question, institutionally, there should have been somebody there institutionally to have my back. It shouldn't have relied on the goodwill and the support of an individual person. And so I'd say institutionally, there needs to be a place where the women on this campus have recourse when they're confronted with something like that. Because from what I hear from the students, they're confronted with that stuff in various forms more often than I thought, and definitely more often than they should be. So I think there needs to be some sort of place where women can take that stuff when it happens.